All right. Hello, everyone. How is everybody today? Just getting a few nails ready to go here. And I'm going to give you a little teaser there, show you guys what we're going to be working on today. We're going to be doing some beautiful pink and white sculpted acrylic nails and some little cherry designs for the summer. So I'm just going to pull my chat up here so I can see what you guys are up to, see what you guys have to say today. And all right, we are good there. And let's go ahead and get started in just a second here. Hello, Melissa. Hello, everyone. Welcome. And let's see, Margaret. Is it Margaret or Margarete? Welcome. Glad to have you guys all with us. And everybody else that's joining us, thank you so much for being with us. I know we were a little bit off schedule last week, so we're going to give you guys a whole bunch of good education to kind of make up for that. So let's go ahead and get started. Like I said, we're going to be doing some sculptured pink and whites, as you can see here, with some cute little cherry designs on there for our summer picnics. But let me just start by shortening up the nail that we're going to be working on. I always like to shorten up the nails, whether it's on the trainer hand or on a real client. I find that when you're sculpting, if you take away a good amount of that free edge and only leave what you need to get your form underneath, everything is going to go much easier. So we're just going to shorten that up a little bit. And let's see. Oops, you guys, little glitch on my camera here. But okay, I think we are good now. So just shortened up that free edge a little bit. And we're going to go through and we're going to prep the nail. Now we're going to start by pushing back the cuticles, and this is how we're going to prep all of our nails. Whether we're working on acrylics, hard gels, gel polish, you're going to go through and you're going to push back the cuticles on all of those nails. And that's also going to be the time where you are going to be consulting with your client. So you're going to talk to her about what kind of shape you want, what length she wants, all of those good things that you need to know before you actually get started on the nails. So you're not just taking the time to push back the cuticles, you're taking the time to do a little bit of a consultation. And once we've got those cuticles cleaned up, I'm going to put my mandrel in here and I'm going to change out my sanding band. I always want to make sure that I'm using a nice, clean, brand new sanding band for every client, every application, because this way I'm going to have the proper grit. I'll show you guys here. I like to show you guys this so that you really understand why you need a new bit or a new sanding band every time. This one right here is my old one. You can see how worn down that is. You can actually see there's a little piece that came off of there, but you can see how worn down that is. With a brand new sanding band, that's going to give you the proper grit to remove the shine from the nails, and it's also going to help to create a little bit of texture on that nail. If we use that bit that's too worn down, it's not going to give us the proper texture. The other thing too is that these sanding bands are not sanitizable and disinfectable. They will pretty much fall apart in your disinfectant, or if you're trying to wash those with soap and water, they will just come apart. So you always want to make sure that you're changing those out, putting in a brand new one, even if you're just practicing. It always helps to have that proper grit even when you're practicing. Now we're going to turn our E-file to about 5,000 RPMs, and I'm just going to readjust a couple of things here. All right, there we go. And we're going to start in just little circular motions. Now, before I do that, one little quick thing. These sanding bands are pre-beveled on the edges, so you don't have to worry about them being too sharp or cutting or anything like that. But if you feel more comfortable, you can take just one of your regular 150 grit files or whatever file you have on hand, and you can just tap the edge of that bit. Just give it a quick 1, 2, 3. If you feel like that may be a little bit too sharp, then you can go ahead and soften up that edge just a little bit. But if you need to, go ahead. If you don't, you don't. So we're going to start by just working right up around that cuticle area. Actually, you guys, let me readjust my camera just a hair, just so I can make sure that I'm getting the proper view and you guys are getting the proper view. All right, I think we're good there. So we're just going to go right up around that cuticle, short little strokes all the way through, and then I'm going to feather my bit all the way across that nail, just creating a little bit of texture and breaking up any surface oils that may be on that nail. Just again, creating a little bit of texture, and looks like we're good. Make sure that you catch all of those little edges all the way down along those sides to make sure that everything is nice and textured and no shine left on that nail. We're going to go through, we're going to dust off that nail, clean off all of that dust off of there, any debris, and then I'm going to grab my swipe. And swipe is the little blue liquid that we've got here in the pump bottle. And I'm going to pump a little bit of that onto my manicure brush. Now what swipe is going to do, this is going to help to clean the nail plate. It's going to help to, any last little bits of dust that we didn't get off of there, it's going to help to clean those little bits of dust off. You can also clean underneath if you feel like you have a little bit of dust underneath. It's also going to remove any germs, any bacteria, or any contaminants that may be on the surface of that nail that we want to just take away. And it's also going to remove the extra surface oils that may be still on that surface. So we're going to wait until that nail goes back to that nice chalky dry look. And it's just about there. All right, I think we're good at this point. Now, next thing we're going to use is our protein bond. Protein bond is our bonder. This is not a primer. You guys can see it says non-acid adhesion. So this means that there's none of that methacrylic acid that's in a lot of other primers. So this works as a bonder. It works kind of like a double-sided tape. So it's going to apply to that nail. It's going to stick down to that nail. But now you can see where I've got the protein bond and where I don't have the protein bond. Where I have protein bond is going to be a sticky surface. Where I don't have protein bond, it's not going to be a sticky surface. So that's why we're using the protein bond to create that really good sticky surface for our acrylic or our hard gel or our gel polish, whatever you're working with. It's going to create a really great tacky surface. Now, when I'm working on acrylics, like we're going to be working on here, I always do 2 coats of my protein bond. This is going to give you a really good sticky surface, really good adhesion all the way through, just making sure we're getting all the way to the edges, all the way back to that cuticle area. But when I do apply my protein bond, notice that I didn't start right up at that cuticle area. I always start about halfway up the nail, brush out to the sides, and then brush back to that cuticle area. So that way I'm not going to flood my protein bond onto that nail or up into that cuticle area. Okay? Somebody's asking in the chat, what are we doing today? We are going to be doing some really cute pink and white nails with some cute little cherries on there for the summer. So that's what we're going to be working on. And we're going to be sculpting these nails. So I'm going to take, let's see, we're going to take, somebody's got a question, do you use it for tips as well? If you're working with the protein bond and tips, I would glue, so if you're doing a, let me think, if you're doing a quarter well tip, you're going to apply the protein bond after you apply your tip, but before you do your overlay. If you're working with a full cover tip, there's a little bit of a process with that, but we've got some great videos here on our YouTube channel. So definitely check some of those out if you are working with the full cover tips. So make sure to subscribe, find all of those other videos, and lots of other education here for you guys. But today we're going to be working with a form and we're going to be sculpting. So I took that form off the paper. I'm going to take that little tab out of the center and I'm going to stick that right on the back of our form. That is going to give our form a little bit more strength and more durability. And then we're going to pinch these 2 little silver tabs together right at the end. And we want to make sure that we're pinching those together as evenly as possible so that our nail is going to stay nice and straight. It's not going to end up crooked. And you can see that we're going to be working on more of a shorter almond shape today. So we're going to take our form and we're going to pinch that form right at the end. And I'm going to open up that top perforation right up here. Pop that open. We're going to get this right up underneath the nail. Now I'm actually going to open this up just a little bit more, kind of flatten that out a little bit so it's going to fit right up flush underneath our nail that we've got here. Now I'm going to start at a slight downward angle. I'm not just going to shove this form straight up underneath that nail. So I'm going to come from that slight downward angle, bring it up underneath that nail, catch that free edge, and then I'm just going to lift up at the end. By doing this, I'm going to catch that natural nail. I'm not going to be hurting or irritating that hyponychium, that skin right underneath the nail. And by lifting up on the end, it's going to bring that form right up, flush up underneath that natural nail. And then we're going to secure that right down on the sides. Now, because we are working on a little bit of a shorter nail, we're not going to be sculpting all the way to the end of this form. I am going to pinch my form a little bit shorter. That's going to help me to keep more of that tight pinch in my form and when I sculpt the nail, and it's going to help give us proper structure. I'm just going to pinch together a little bit tighter right down underneath, right through here as well, to make sure that the form doesn't end up looking too wide. So I think we're looking good there. I do want to check and make sure that my form is nice and straight. And you guys, to do that, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll actually turn that finger around. Let me readjust here. So I turn that finger around and I'm going to look straight at that nail. Now it looks like my form may be just a little bit lopsided, so I'm going to readjust that to make sure that my form is coming nice and straight out from that nail. Now let's come back here. Always check and make sure that your forms are nice and straight before you actually start sculpting, because once you start sculpting, if your form is on crooked, you're probably going to sculpt your nail a little bit crooked. So make sure to check those forms, make sure everything is nice and straight and even. All right, because we're going to be working with acrylic, I've got a couple of things here. I've got some table towels. It's just the table towels that I've got right on my table here, and I just cut those into smaller pieces. So when I wipe my brush, I have a nice area to wipe my brush on. And then as this little towel gets contaminated, I can just pull that one off, and then I have a new clean space to work on. So that's just one of my tricks that I like to do. Let's go ahead and grab our Dappen dish. Looks like I've got a little bit of monomer in there from my last time. I always make sure to clean out any monomer that's in there from my last application. You always want to make sure that you're working with nice, clean, fresh monomer, and monomer that doesn't have any acrylic kind of clogging it at all. So always start with clean, fresh monomer. And I soaked that up just using one of my towels, and I used my magic wand here to pull that out. So this way I'm not getting monomer on my skin. I'm not going to irritate my skin or anything like that. So let me grab my monomer, and today we're going to be working with our traditional acrylic system. That is our pink labels. And got my monomer and I've got my powders here. So we're going to pour a little bit of monomer into our Dappen dish. And I like to use my brush, and I'll just touch my brush to the top of the bottle, and then I'll pour straight down the brush. And what this does, this is going to help to keep me from spilling my product, spilling that liquid all over my table, or spilling that down the side of my bottle. So just a quick little trick that is going to make your life a little easier. All right, and notice really quick here, I only fill my Dappen dish to about the top of my brush. So right up to the top of the bristles here. I don't fill it all the way to the top of the Dappen dish. There's no need to. You're probably going to waste more liquid if you do try to fill that all the way up, because I'm going to clean out the extra liquid at the end of my application here. So only fill it as much as you're going to use for that one application. And the colors that we're going to be using today is our Cover Pink. And again, you guys, this is our traditional acrylic system. So our Cover Pink is a beautiful opaque pink. I love using this one for my pink and white designs because it is that opaque, but it's just a really pretty kind of a nude color. So if you like just that nude color, you can do a full nail in that Cover Pink. We've also got our Speed White, which is our really nice bright white. And again, the combination of these two is beautiful for your pink and white nails. So that's what we're going to be using today. I'm going to be starting with my pink. Now, a lot of times I see people start with their white and they try to sculpt in that free edge and they try to swipe in that line. You guys, I'm going to show you an easier way to do your pink and whites. So if you're struggling with your pink and whites, stick with us here today. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to pick up a pearl of our pink. Now we want our product to be able to flow a little bit. So a couple of things to keep in mind. When you're working, let me turn this from the side view. You want to make sure that you're holding the client's finger at a slight downward angle, okay? You don't want to be holding that nail flat. What's going to happen, let me show you really quickly here. I'll just grab a little extra tip here. So when you're working, you know what? I'm going to grab my other trainer hand here. I'm going to show you something really quick. So when you're working with acrylic, you want to make sure that you're not holding that finger flat. You want to hold that at a slight downward angle so that your product is going to flow down the length of the nail. So when I pick up my pearl, and we're going to pick that up, I'm actually going to wait 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 to 5 seconds, and then I'm going to set that onto the nail. So what I want to happen is I want to be able to set that on the nail, angle that finger downward, press out my cuticle area, and if I angle that finger downward, my product is going to flow down the length of the nail. Okay, I want to show you something else. At this point, my product, I have complete control over it. It's not running down into the cuticle area. It's not running down into the sidewalls. If I were to take that same pearl, let me wipe that off real quick, and hold that nail flat. So if I'm holding that nail flat and I pick up my pearl and I wait 1, 2, 3, 4, and I set that down onto the nail here, now what's going to happen, you're going to start to see that product flow down the sides. It's going to flow with gravity, so it's going to run all the way down into those sidewalls, all the way down into that cuticle area. By just holding that finger at a downward angle, that's going to help to keep our product on the nail and keep that from flowing into the cuticle area, because we absolutely do not want our product on the skin. We don't want to have to be chasing it or trying to clean that off the skin. It's just going to be a big mess. So make sure that when you're applying your product by that cuticle area, you're keeping that finger at a downward angle. Okay, now the other thing that we want to keep in mind is when we are applying that product by the cuticle area, let me pick up my pearl, press, bounce, bounce. I'm going to wait 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to set that onto the nail. What that's going to do is that's going to help that product start to polymerize or start to set up just a little bit. So again, it's not going to be out of control. If you were to take that product and pick that up, press, bounce, bounce, and just go right to that nail, do you see how fast that product is running? I would actually have to really control that and really try to get in there and clean up my smile line, and I'm going to be chasing that product. Okay? By giving it just a few seconds to set up a little bit, just a few seconds to polymerize, that's going to help to keep our product from running out of control. So again, we're going to pick up, we're going to bounce, bounce, bounce. I'm going to hold that 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 seconds. But you guys, did you see what happened to the pearl? It went from a texture that looked like an orange peel to now it's a smooth pearl surface. I want to show you guys that one more time. This is a really important thing to notice because I'll sit here and I'll count to 4, but if you don't understand why I'm counting to 4 or what your product should look like, you're not going to understand why you need to count to 4. So you guys, I'm going to show you this one more time. So everybody watch really, really closely here. So we're going to pick up our pearl, we're going to press, bounce, bounce, bounce. Look at that texture. 1, 2, 3, 4. It goes from that really kind of orange peel look to that nice smooth pearl. Once it gets to that smooth pearl, that's the point where you're going to set that down onto the nail. So let me show you one more time here. On this one, I will actually set this onto the nail. So again, press, bounce, 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 count 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, and then I'm going to set that down. Now I've got a lot more control of where my product is going to run and flow. I've got a little bit of a bubble in there, but at this point now I can use my brush to press out that cuticle area, and I can allow that product to flow down the length of the nail, and it's actually going to start to form a smile line. So when I lift up on the nail, you can already see that my smile line is coming into place. And then I'm just going to use my brush to really perfect that smile line. Now, you guys, I want to show you something. When you're pressing or when you're perfecting your smile line, you're going to be using the edge of your brush right through here. If you notice on the brush, there's a little bit of a crimp right through here. If we look at that brush from the side, there's a crimp right through here. Right up in here, do you see how rounded that is? Down here, that roundness has been pressed. So it's crimped right through here. That's where you're going to be wiping your brush. You always want to make sure that you're wiping your brush flat with that crimp. But when we're using or when we're creating those smile lines, we're going to use the edge of our brush, not the rounded part. So not this big fat part right through here, not this area right through here, but right through that edge. By using that edge, that's how we're going to be able to create a nice, sharp, crisp smile line by just pressing in on the sides. If you turn your brush and instead of using that edge, you turn your brush here and you try to use that big fat part, what's going to happen is you're going to get more of a rounded edge. You're not going to get that really nice, sharp, crisp, straight edge that we're looking for, okay? Yes, Artistry by Alyssa says, let it breathe for 4 seconds. You guys, product doesn't breathe, but yes, you are correct. Let it just kind of start to set up a little bit. Let it set for about 4 to 5 seconds, and that's how you're going to get that proper consistency. You're going to get that product to be able to flow down the length of the nail, and you're going to actually have less work to do. You're going to allow that product to do the work for you. So just let it, quote unquote, breathe for a few seconds. All right, you guys, I'm going to take off the top towel here. I'm going to set that off to the trash. So now I've got a nice clean place to always wipe my brush on. I'm going to tap down my powder. Let's go ahead and start our nail here. We'll go ahead and create that pink. So we'll press our brush here. We're going to press, bounce, bounce. 1, 2. Actually, you guys, I think I want just a little bit of a larger pearl for this one. So let's go ahead and tap out our liquid. We're going to press, bounce, bounce, bounce. Okay, that's good. 1, 2, 3, 4. Angling my finger straight down. I'm going to press that product down. I'm going to press out my cuticle area all the way from side to side. Press, press, press. Get that finger angled down. Let that product flow down the length of the nail. If you need to kind of help that a little bit, you can just tap along those edges. Move that product into place, but you can see how that's running down. I'm going to wipe out my brush. Now I'm going to use the edge of my brush to tuck in that smile line. Just tucking that in on the sides. Again, using the edge of my brush, not the big fat belly of my brush, just the edge, and then I'll turn that on the side, tuck in on that point. Now you guys, as I'm working, my product is starting to set up. And my room is a little bit on the warm side today. I did turn my air conditioning off, so you guys didn't hear all of that in the background. But the warmer your environment, the faster your product is going to set. So sometimes you may have to work a little bit quicker if your room is a little bit warmer. If your room is a little on the cooler side, your product is going to run and it's going to flow a little bit faster, and it's going to set up a little bit slower. So you may have to adjust how you work. You may have to adjust the speed that you work at. But you guys, I'm going to show you something. Now I do have my smile line pretty good here. If I didn't have my smile line really good, or if maybe it's set up a little bit faster on me than I was used to, or maybe I just didn't quite get the proper application and get that smile line perfect, I'm going to show you guys something. I'm going to swap out a nail here, and I'm going to actually swap out a few nails as we go because I don't want you guys to have to sit and wait and just stare at this nail as it sets. I've got my other trainer hand over here. So I've got a nail that I've already built out that pink. It's already set. It's completely dry. I've had this on actually for a little while now. If you have your smile line and your smile line isn't perfect, I'm going to show you a trick to creating it perfect or making it perfect. Now, I'm going to grab a brand new file and let's come back out here. So this is a brand new file. I have not taken off the sharp edges of this one yet. Usually when I'm working with my files, I will go through and I'll soften up those edges so that I'm not going to cut my client's skin. When I'm working and cleaning up my smile line, I'm going to use that brand new file with that little bit of a sharp edge. Be very careful as you're working here, but you want that really nice sharp edge because we're going to go through and just straighten out that smile line. Now, when we're straightening out the smile line, yes, I have my form on here still. If you can file without taking that form off, that's great. If you need to take that form off, that's fine too. I'm going to try to file this and leave that form on, but if it comes off, that's okay. We'll just reapply our form. Now, as I'm filing, I'm just going through, and I want you to see this. I'm keeping my file straight up and down. I'm not angling at all. Keep that straight up and down because what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a ledge. We're trying to create basically a wall. And I'm going to show you guys this once I've filed it out so that we have a perfect kind of a definition between where our pink is going to be and where our white is going to be. So keeping my file straight up and down, what is that, perpendicular to the nail? However you want to think about it, just straight up and down, we're not angling at all. So we're going to create that nice straight edge here. So once we have that filed into shape. Now you can see it's really nice and straight. If we look at this from the side view, now you can see there's a perfect drop down, okay? We don't have it rolling down. We don't have it thicker on one side than the other. We have that nice wall. So what we're going to do, we're actually going to be putting our acrylic right up to that nail, or right up to that pink that we've built out. So that's why we want to make sure that there's that really good definition between our pink and our white. Now, something else to keep in mind is when you're filing, actually I'm going to dust this off really quick for you guys so you can see a little bit better. I want you to notice that as you're filing, keep in mind where the highest points are. So the highest point of your smile line is going to come all the way up to here. You want to make sure that this point is the same height as on the other side. So as you're filing, you're going to be able to see right where the dust starts to collect. So notice where that dust starts to collect. That's going to be your line. That's going to be your smile line. Okay, so now you can see that my dust line comes all the way up from on this side here, and then all the way right about to that same point on the other side. Okay, so watch how that dust is collecting. That's going to show you the outline of your smile. Okay, now at this point, my form is still on there. I'm going to dust this off. Now, if by chance you weren't able to file that with the form on, maybe the form came off or came loose or something like that, you can go ahead and readjust that. Dust this off, and there's actually a little bit of product right underneath that nail that I want to clean out. So go ahead and clean that out from underneath if you have to, okay? Dust that off one more time. If you have natural nail showing, I do have a little tiny bit of natural nail showing here. Go back to your swipe, take another little pump of that onto your manicure brush, and go through and cleanse that nail one more time. That way you don't have any dust or contaminants on that nail. Let that dry. And then if you do still have that little bit of natural nail showing, sometimes you may not. If you do though, you want to make sure that you're reapplying your protein bond to that little bit of nail that has grown out. Now, do make sure, right now, let me come in a little closer, it still is a little bit wet from the swipe. So make sure that you give that enough time to dry. I'm actually going to use one of our lint-free wipes and just dab off any extra moisture from that. And then go back with your protein bond one more time. And all you would need to do is just apply a tiny little bit right onto that natural nail. So that's going to give you that really tacky surface for your acrylic to adhere to again, okay? All right, so we've got that nail. Let's see. I think we'll go ahead and we'll finish up with this one. I know we had another one that we started over here, but let's go ahead and finish up with this one since we're already at that point. Now, because we took that form off, we still want to sculpt, so we're going to reapply a second form. Now, the reason that I actually had that form on there is because I did want to create a little bit of an elongated smile line. I wanted to bring that down past where that natural nail grew. So if you have maybe a longer nail bed and you only want to build your pink out to the end of that nail itself, you don't have to put a form on for this step. But if you do want to elongate that smile line, you would build out, put a form on and build that out first. But now we are going to apply our form and we are going to build out our free edge. So I'm going to do the same thing, put that little tab on the back, pinch my two little silver tabs together, pinch that form a little bit tighter, and we'll go ahead and get this on. Now you guys, a lot of times when I'm working on the trainer hand, I will leave that perforation closed. I won't open that up. But if you are working on a real person, it does tend to work better if you open that up. So personal preference whatever you're working on. Now you guys, as I'm getting this form on, make sure if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, join our community, get free education. And I think we've got our form on. We are looking good. I just want to readjust this here. I want to make sure that my form is coming nice and straight out from that nail. I'm just going to lift that up a little bit. All right, I think we are looking good there. Now, here is the time for our white acrylic. So we're going to be bringing on our free edge. So we're going to go back to our speed white. And we've got our monomer here. Now, when we were working with the pink, we would pick up our pearl and we allowed it to just kind of polymerize for a little bit. So let me show you what we were doing with the pink if you missed that. So we pressed, bounce, bounce. With our pink, we waited 1, 2, 3, 4. We waited for that to turn that pearl look. When we're working with our white, I'm going to do something a little bit different. Instead of allowing it to polymerize, I actually want to bring this product to more of a clay-like form where it's not going to run and flow as much. Let me show you what I mean by that. So, whoops, I don't know what that was. So when we were picking up our pink, we picked that up, we just kind of let it set up for just a couple of seconds, about 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I set that onto the nail. Now that is going to flow a little bit. It's not out of control because we gave it a few seconds to just polymerize and set up a little bit. When we're working with the white, I don't want that much flow to it. I don't want it to move that much. I want it to work, or I want to work with it more in a clay-like form. So I'm going to pick up my pearl, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to drain that out onto my towel, and I'm going to hold it there for 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 seconds or so. And then I'm going to set that onto the nail. Now you can see with this one, it is going to soften, but it's not going to run and flow as much. That's exactly what I want when I'm working on my form, because I don't want my product to flow and get out of control. I want to be able to press that out and be able to tuck that in on the sides and have complete control of where I'm putting my product. So this way I'll be able to bring that all the way up to my smile line and connect everything without it getting out of control. Okay, so let me show you how I'm going to do that. So let's tap our powder down, and we'll go ahead and pick up our pearl. I'm going to tap out the back. I'm going to press, bounce, bounce, bounce. I'm going to take that pearl, drain that out. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to set that right up to that little edge that we created. I'm going to wipe out my brush. I'm going to use the fat part of my brush, the belly of my brush, press that product out to the side. Anytime I feel like I get product sticking to my brush, wipe out my brush. Okay, we're going to use the edge of the brush, tuck that up into that corner up there, press that all the way back across to the other side. Again, use the edge of the brush, press that up into that corner, edge of the brush, now the belly of the brush, edge of the brush, belly of the brush, pressing that all the way up into that corner. Now, you guys, notice I didn't get all the way up into that corner. That's okay. I'm going to come back and I'm going to perfect that in just a second, but I'm going to start to mold this into my almond shape. And again, you guys, my room is a little bit on the warmer side, so it is starting to set up a little bit faster than when I had my air conditioning on, which is not a problem. Now, if you get to this point and you're looking at the nail and you're like, what the heck is going on? I don't have product all the way up to here. I don't have product into here. That's okay. I'm going to clean out my brush. I'm going to pick up another pearl. I'm going to press, bounce. I'm not going to pick up a large pearl. So just a smaller pearl, probably about half the size of what I used for this application. So we're going to pick up that smaller pearl, press, bounce, bounce. Drain out just a little bit of the liquid. Now I'm going to turn my brush around, I'm going to set that down, and I'm going to blend that pearl right up to that smile line. Now, are you noticing that I'm getting a little bit of product up and over that smile line? If you're not noticing that, you're not paying attention. But just make sure that you're getting product all the way up to that smile line. If you get product up and over, it's not a problem. We're going to file this nail out. And if you take a look from the side, you're going to see that pink is actually up higher than our white. So when we go to file, all of this product right through here is going to file off. And any of that white that came up and over that surface is going to file out. Okay. And you guys, I actually have another nail. We're going to swap this one out. I'm going to show you guys all of the steps of this except for the drying time. So you get the picture of how to apply the product, how to file everything without actually having to wait. So again, we've got our white on there, we've got our product all the way up into the corners, all the way up to that smile line. Even a little bit of that white came up over that pink, but that's okay. So I'm going to just rinse out my brush here really quick, clean that out, roll that back to a point, and I'm going to set my brush off to the side. We'll set our monomer off to the side, and we're going to do another swap out. So this nail that we just finished sculpting, we have right here. I've started filing a little bit of that shape. I use my electric file for that. And you guys, if you want to see the full filing techniques, we do have some great videos here on our YouTube channel. But on this one, I'm just going to file a little bit so you can see how our smile line is going to show through there. Because I know you guys, it looks like it's not really going to show, but it is. So if you're filing, always make sure to grab your dust collector. Always use your dust collector, you guys. If you don't have one and you're doing nails, you need one, because this is what's going to help to save your lungs, okay? You want to be able to breathe well. So we're going to turn that on. I've got, let me show you really quick. I've got my X-Cut carbide bit, and this is what I'm going to use to file that nail. Now you guys, I've already gone through and I've used my X-Cut to give myself a little bit of shape around the edge, but I just want to show you how that smile line is going to come through. So I'm going to turn this nail on the side. I'm going to work from the center, and I'm just going to start right down the center, and that is where we're going to start to see that really nice sharp smile line come in, okay? If you had that smile line, where did we have? If you had filed in that smile line with your file, your hand file, it's going to be perfect once you do your electric file, okay? So I know sometimes people, they'll get their white on and they start thinking, oh my gosh, this is not going to look good, this is not going to look crisp or pretty. But once you start that filing, that smile line is really going to show, okay? Again, as we do our filing, that smile line is going to show right through there. And again, you guys, I'm not going to spend the time to file out this whole nail. I've got another swap out here. But as you're filing, you can see that that smile line is going to show through really beautifully. Okay. Lady Godiva is asking how many RPMs. Right now, I'm working at about 15,000 RPMs with my X-Cut carbide. So again, same thing that we had here. We just filed this one out a little bit, and that smile line is going to show through beautifully. Okay. Now, again, you guys, we're going to swap this out one more time because we've got so many things to show you today. So we're not going to spend all of the time filing and everything. Again, if you need a video showing you how to file everything, we've got some great videos here on our YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to our channel so that you can get all of those great videos and education. Now, I've got my swap out nail that has been filed and finished. And I did use a 150 grit file. Now, before you do your filing with this file, remember this is the one that we used to shape up our smile line. This one, I now am going to use my prep file, and I am going to take off the sharp edges. So make sure that if you are filing anywhere near skin or the cuticle area, make sure that you do go through with that prep file and you take off those sharp edges, okay? Now, again, this one I've already gone through and filed, and it is ready to go, ready for our cherry application. And I actually have, you guys, I got a couple of different techniques that I'm going to show you. So make sure to stick all the way through with our designs today because you don't want to miss out, okay? So we're going to go through, we're going to dust off that nail, cleanse all of that off. I'm going to go back to my swipe. I'm going to pump a little bit of my swipe onto my brush, and we're going to cleanse that nail one more time. Getting all of that dust off, any debris that's on there, any contaminants that are on there. It's going to give us, again, that nice clean, dry surface. Now, we're going to go back to another coat of our protein bond. So when I'm doing either a gel polish or a design on my nail, I always like to use that protein bond. Even if I'm just going right into my gel top coat, I always like to use a coat of that protein bond to really give this nail great adhesion so that your top coat or your gel polish or your art is not going to chip off. Now, you guys, I've got a second nail here. I'm going to put this one on because I think I'm going to show you two different things here. So let me just clean this one up. We'll do the same thing on this one. Pop that one in, dust that off, a little bit of swipe to cleanse that, and then we'll wait till that dries, and then we'll put a coat of protein bond on this one as well. So you guys, as I'm putting the protein bond on, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our community. All right, so we've got one more coat of protein bond all the way through that whole nail. Let's see, swipe is, somebody's asking, swipe is that prep and wipe. So swipe is, if you're not familiar with our product, you guys, everything I'm using here is from Young Nails, but swipe is our cleanser. So that is what I pumped onto my brush to cleanse off that nail. And that's what I'm going to use to just help to remove any dust, any dirt, germs, bacteria, all of that good stuff. Okay? All right. So what do you guys want to see first? The hand-painted designs or the charms? I want to know. You guys let me know in the chat. Hand-painted or charms? And I'm going to show you what I'm going to be using for both. So for our hand-painted designs, we're going to be using our Mission Control gel paints. And for that, I've got Power Up, which is our red. So we've got that beautiful bright red, that beautiful cherry red. And then we've got Giant, which is our bright green. And you guys, together, these colors are kind of Christmassy. So if you like Christmas colors, we're not quite there yet, but these are great colors to have around for Christmas. And then we've also got Fizz, which is our white. All right, so we've got those three colors. All right, you guys are saying hand-painted, so I'll go ahead and do the hand-painted, and then I'll show you the other, our cherry charms at the end. All right, I'm gonna grab my little tile here, and you guys, this is just our little paint palette here. I like to have that just in case I feel like I want to use my paint from the tile rather than from my jars. And I've also got two different tools here. I've got a little dotting tool. I'm coming a little closer. So I've got my dotting tool. It's got a larger end and a smaller end. And I've also got my micro detailer. So these are the tools that I'm going to be working with. If you don't have a dotting tool, grab yourself a toothpick. You can take your toothpick, and if you want a larger dot rather than just that tiny little dot, you can use a nipper and clip off the end, and that's going to give you a little bit of a larger dot. So whichever one you have, you can use. I'm going to be using my dotting tool today. So let's start with our cute little cherries with our Power Up. And like I said, if you want to work with that on the tile, you can work with your paint on the tile. For this step, I'm just going to use it right out of the container. And I think maybe we'll start with a larger dot. So I'm just going to go straight into my my gel, my paint there. And actually, I'm going to test this on the tile here. I like to test and see the size of that dot. I feel like maybe that one was just a little bit big, so I think we're going to be good when we place this onto the nail. So we're going to create two little dots, and you can set them down wherever you want to, just straight on there. And we'll do another one straight on there. And if you want to, you can create a smaller set of cherries. So let's take the smaller end of our dotting tool right into our gel paint, and let's put another set right up here. And I feel like that last dot needed to be just a little bit bigger. Maybe that one needs to be just a little bit bigger. Now at this point, I don't want my my design to smudge or smear, so I'm gonna grab let me grab this in here. This is our Touch Cure Light, and this is what I'm going to use to just freeze and set that design into place. So I'm going to turn my light on here, and I'm just going to hold that right on there, just allowing that to cure a little bit. So it's not going to cure it fully all the way through. It's just going to cure that a little bit so that it sets it into place, so that when I go on to my next step, I'm not going to smudge or dent or anything. I can go on to my next step without worrying about damaging the cherries. So just a few seconds in there, maybe 10 to 20 seconds or so, and then we can go on to our next step. Now with this step, we're going to add our little stems, and that's where Giant is going to come in. So we're going to take our green, and I think with this one, I think I'm going to take a little bit of that onto my tile. So I'm going to use my brush, just pick up a little bit of that onto my tile. I'm going to roll my brush through that paint, so just kind of rolling it between my fingers here, rolling that through the paint, and then let me scooch that off to the other side. We're going to take just a little bit onto the brush, and we're going to create just a little bit of a triangle. So I'm going to go from right here, let me come in a little closer there for you guys. So right here to about right up there. So if you want to give yourself a visual, you can put a tiny little dot up there. take a little bit more of that paint. I'm not coming in perfectly straight in. I'm gonna angle my brush just a little bit, okay? So we're gonna take that, put a little bit of pressure right at the top of that cherry, lift up on the brush and bring it up to that point, okay? We'll take a little bit more of that green. Again, a little bit of pressure and bring it up to that point. So we've got our cute little cherry stems. Let's go ahead and create our second ones here. Now you guys, I want you to take a really close look. Do you see how there is that tiny little bit of a pearl right at the end of the brush? That's what I'm pressing onto the nail. I'm going to take just a little bit of that off. Because I like having a little bit of a wider base right at that connection area, so right at the top of the cherry. So a little bit of pressure with that pearl and then pull up. Pick up a little bit more, same thing, press and pull up. Now if they don't connect perfectly, that's okay. Give them a little touch together. I'm going to go back to my Touch Cure Light, freeze those into place. And I like to freeze these as I'm going, because this way if I do have something on there that maybe I didn't love it, or maybe it just didn't quite turn out as I wanted it to, I can wipe off that last application without having to damage what else is on there. So say maybe I had a little bit of green here that, oops, I got that on there. Now because I've already cured and set those other colors into place, I can just take one of my lint-free wipes and I can wipe that off and clean that off. So if you have, maybe if you're not quite positive about your skills, maybe if you get a little shaky, you guys, I had a little bit of extra coffee today, so I'm feeling a little bit shaky. So if I feel like maybe my design isn't turning out how I wanted it to, I could go through and I could wipe that off before I cure that with the Touch Cure Light, okay? All right, let's go ahead and add some more little leaves to this. So we're going to take just a little bit more of that green, and even maybe I'll just dip my liner or my micro detailer right into that paint. So we're going to create, again, a little tiny pearl right on the end, and we're going to just press that down. So I'm actually bringing my brush in sideways. So I've got, I don't know if you guys can see, you've got that tiny, tiny little point of my brush right at the end. Then I've got that little pearl. I think I need just a little bit less there. So we're going to just set this right down onto the nail and then lift up. So that's going to create a little dab right there, and I'm going to pull away from the end, and that's going to be our little leaf. Now you guys, I'm not loving how that one's looking. So again, this is why I like to freeze everything into place. So if I don't like how things are looking, I can wipe that off and I can do a second application. So let's set that one down there. I think I need just a little bit more of that color on my brush. All right, there we go. And then I'm going to pull. There we go. Now I like how that one was looking. Again, I'm going to dab into my paint. I think maybe just a little bit less, so I'll take a little bit of that off of there. Turn my brush, and I'm going to come from the other side here. So instead of this side, I'm just turning my brush around from the other side. I'm going to tap that onto the nail, lift up. I think I'm going to wipe out a little bit of that extra out of there. And this one actually already has that little bit of a trail off right here. So I don't know. I think maybe we'll pull that just a little bit. Okay, I think I like how that one is. Again, I'm going to go with my Touch Cure Light. I'm going to freeze that into place because I don't want to squish that as I'm working on the next one. If you like it, freeze it, you guys. If you like how your design has turned out, freeze that into place so that you don't have to worry about smudging it, or you can wipe off the next one, okay? So let's go back to our green. Again, I'm going to go right into that color. I've got my little tiny pearl right on the end of the brush. I think that was a little too much, so we'll dab a little bit of that off. Set that right down on the nail. Little bit of pressure, lift up, take out that extra, and pull just to a little bit of a point. One more time, dab into our paint, take out the extra, turn my brush from the other side, set that down, lift up. Now this one I think I'm going to bring into the center because it doesn't look like anything's really connecting in the center there. So let's connect those, take out that extra, and then let's just pull out to a point. Oh my gosh, you guys, how cute are those? If you're loving these little cherries here for summer, put either, if you can find a cherry emoji, I don't know if there's a cherry emoji, but throw a cherry emoji into the chat. Or if you're loving them and you can't find a cherry emoji, just put some hearts into the chat. I would love to see that. So we've got basically the outline here. Let's add just a tiny little bit of detail to this. So again, I froze that into place. Let me grab Fizz, and again, that is my white. Oh, look at all those cherries, you guys. Thank you so much. Love to see that. And you guys, you know what else I love to see is when you guys subscribe to our channel. So make sure to subscribe, get all this education, continue to get this education. And let's go ahead and add some detail to our nail. So I'm going to take a little bit of Fizz, and that's just our white gel paint, just a tiny little bit onto my tile here. Now I only want just a very, very tiny little bit. Even what I've got on here right now, you guys, if you can see that, that's still too much. So I'm going to wipe out just a little bit more. I just want to be able to create the tiniest little detail. And I don't even know if you guys can see that on camera, just the tiniest. There we go. That's as much as I want to create on the nail. So I'm just taking a little bit of that white, drag some of that extra off, and we're going to create just a little bit of a light reflection on our cherry. So I'm going to touch just barely the point of my brush, and you can see I'm using my own nail as a little bit of a palette so I can take off some of that extra gel if I need to. So just a tiny little, just a little swish right here at the corner for that little bit of a light reflection. Okay, same thing, just a little bit of a swish, barely touching my brush to that little nail. I'm going to take a little bit more onto my brush, take off that extra, and just a tiny, tiny little swish, and a tiny little swish. So now we've got, I don't know if you guys can see that, there we go. We've got just that little bit of light reflection on there. We're going to go back to our Touch Cure light, making sure that I don't have any of my gel paints nearby, because I don't want to be curing my gel paints in the container. So again, just a little bit of a time to freeze our last little detail on there. And you guys, I'm not going to top coat this nail just, actually, let me think for a second. Yes, I will top coat this. So you guys, we're not finished with our designs. I've got one more fun thing to show you with our charms, but if you're new to our channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. But if you are a regular here and you know what time it is, go ahead and start our top coat chant in the chat. Like I said, we're not done yet. I am going to top coat these, and then I'm going to add one more fun detail to our next nail. So to top coat these, let's see, I think today we'll use our Ultimate Finish top coat. So we're going to use Ultimate Finish, and Ultimate Finish is a great top coat, especially when you're working on designs like this where you're painting over the nail. So if you're painting over the nail, the Ultimate Finish is a little bit of a thicker top coat. Looks like I got a little bit of a fuzz in there. Hold on a second. Okay. But it's a little bit of a thicker top coat, so it's going to seal our design here, and it's going to almost flow around it so that you don't feel the texture of that painted design. So you can use really whatever top coat you want to. But when I'm doing hand-painted designs like this, I do like to use my Ultimate Finish because it is going to kind of self-level a little bit more around that nail. Now, on our second nail, let's see, on our second nail, I actually think I'm going to use my stain resistant. And just so you guys can see a couple of different options here, I really like to use the stain resistant, especially when I'm working on a pink and white nail, because the stain resistant is going to help to keep these nails from absorbing any colors or dyes or makeup or, you guys, it's summertime, a lot of these self-tanners. If you work with other top coats, even the Ultimate Finish top coat, those can stain with all of those different dyes. So if you're doing pink and whites, I love using the stain resistant for that because it's going to keep your nails nice and crisp and nice and bright white and it's going to end up beautiful. So I'm going to pop this into the light. We're just going to freeze these for maybe 30 seconds or so. And while that is freezing in there, we're going to grab our charms. And the charm set that I'm working with today is, let me see if I can zoom out here. This is our Whimsical nail charm kit. And if you're somebody who maybe doesn't have the patience or the time to do all of the hand painted designs, we've got some super cute little cherry charms in this kit. So let me take that one out so you guys can see. Super cute, super sparkly. You're gonna love this for the summertime and all of those little picnics that we might be going to. So I'm gonna take one of those out, and our top coat has set for 30 seconds. Now the ultimate finish, when that's fully cured for 60 seconds, that one is going to have a tack-free finish. Our stain resistant does have a slight tack to it, and I like to use that tack when I'm working with my my little charms here, because we're going to be using the tip and jewel adhesive to adhere our charm. So I'm going to open that up. I'm going to grab my spatula, and I've got this is our dual-ended brush and spatula. So it's got a brush on one end, it's got the spatula on the other, and I also have my tweezers. I like to work with the tweezers because I feel like it just makes things easier for picking up. Now I'm gonna just figure out, where do I want my little cherries here? Let's just go ahead and set those right in the center. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of that tip and jewel adhesive, and I'm just going to roll that right off my spatula right onto that nail. Set that down there. If you feel more comfortable, you can take that tip and jewel adhesive and apply that to your actual charm. So it just really depends on what you feel more comfortable with, however you're able to get that adhesive on there. So let's get a little bit of that adhesive up onto those little leaves. I'm going to just situate this, and one of the great things about the tip and jewel adhesive is that it's not going to, your jewels and your charms are not going to run, they're not going to slide, they're going to stay right where you put them. So you have a lot of time to actually get your jewels into place without them moving or slipping or anything like that. So I'm just going to really press that down on there. And if you need to, this is where I like to use that brush on the other end. If you have a little too much of that gel squeezing out the edges, you can use that brush to kind of clean up around the edges, clean up any of that little bit that is squeezing out. Now I'm going to go back to my Touch Cure light, and we're going to freeze that into place, and then we'll seal this nail. Now I do have that top coat on there, but I think I may add just one more coat of the top coat, and I'm going to seal around the edges of this so that we don't have any little catches or little edges that might catch on your hair or your client's hair. So just freezing that jewel into place. And then let's go back to, again, either your stain resistant, you could use your ultimate finish top coat, whichever one you want to use. And we're going to go through and top coat the rest of the nail all the way around here. And if I'm not able to get right up to the edges of our jewel, I'm going to show you how we can really touch that up a little bit. So just brushing all the way through, getting my top coat on there as evenly as possible. And then I'm going to take a little bit of that top coat onto my tile using my micro detailer brush. I'm going to use that right up around the edges here, or anywhere that I need to get that top coat. Now I like to use my top coat right around, actually I'm going to go right in the middle there, all the way around the edges. So this way, once this cures, it's going to really seal that stone onto the nail so that you don't have any, like I was saying earlier, any of those edges that may catch or anything like that. So just sealing all the way around the edges, making sure I've got top coat all the way back to that cuticle area, and we will go ahead and get this into the light. Now, this time we are going to put that in there for a full 60-second cure. We want to make sure that that stain-resistant top coat is going to fully cure. This one, both the stain-resistant and the ultimate finish, do fully cure in 60 seconds. But the Ultimate Finish, that one does have a tack-free finish. Now the stain resistant, that has a tacky finish. So once this comes out of the light after 60 seconds, you do want to cleanse off that tacky surface. And we're going to use our swipe to cleanse that off. Now earlier we were using our manicure brush and we pumped the swipe onto our manicure brush. This time what we're going to do instead is we're going to use one of our lint-free wipes. And we're going to pump a little bit of that cleanser onto the lint-free wipe. And this is how we'll be able to cleanse that top coat. Now you guys, one more time, hit that subscribe button and let's go ahead and do our second top coat chant in the chat, because I don't know if we actually really got that top coat chant going. And we're going to finish up curing this nail. So if you haven't already, hit subscribe and then you can type top coat, top coat, top coat into the chat. So again, we've got our nails cured out now. That first one had that Ultimate Finish top coat on there to seal our cute little hand-painted cherries. And on our second one, we used the stain resistant. So now I'm just going to use that swipe to cleanse all the way around there and making sure that I get all of that tacky finish cleaned off. I'm going to turn my wipe over here one more time, really making sure that I get all the way through those little nooks and crannies to make sure that I don't have any more tacky surface on there. And we've got our fun designs. You guys, actually, let me put these back all together as a fun little set here. I had some done that I had done previously, so let me just pop this one on there and you guys can see how this would look together as a full set. So we've got some extra fingers. You guys, it looks like an AI demonstration here, but we've got some cute little cherries for the summer, for all those summer picnics that you may be doing. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's lesson. If you do try out these techniques, make sure to tag us, tag Young Nails when you post it on your social media so we can see what you were working on. And any of these products that I used, any of the gel paints, the charms, these are all Young Nails, and you can find them at youngnails.com. So make sure to hit subscribe, join us for our next YouTube Live, and we'll see you guys back next time. Thanks, everybody.